In the vastness of the cosmos, where the stars meet the whispers of mystery, there exists an ancient knowledge that has remained hidden through the ages, a profound wisdom that flows through the veins of time, waiting to be discovered by those bold enough to confront the inexplicable. This is the knowledge humanity has sought tirelessly, the science of all mysteries. Today we venture into the shadows of arcane knowledge, unveiling secrets that have been concealed by the veils of forgetfulness and misunderstanding. Guided by the incomparable Helena Blavatsky, who with her penetrating vision and fearless mind challenged the boundaries of the known, we explore the darkest corners of hidden wisdom. The science of all mysteries is not just a journey into the heart of the unknown, it is an invitation to awaken, to understand the invisible forces that govern our universe, to look beyond the apparent and discover the interconnectedness of all that exists. In this text, every word of Blavatsky becomes a key, every concept a door that leads us to the deepest abysses of esoteric knowledge. The secrets of ancient wisdom are not meant only for scholars or the chosen. They are within reach of all, available to those who dare to question the established and embrace the truth beyond the shadows. What will the mysteries of the universe reveal to us? What are the hidden laws that govern our destiny? In the crucible of knowledge and magic, Blavatsky invites us to discover the invisible threads that connect all things, and to explore a world where science merges with the spiritual, where reason meets intuition, and the human mind is capable of embracing the divine. Prepare yourself for a fascinating journey into the deepest secrets of the cosmos, where everything you know crumbles away, and in its place, a new reality emerges, filled with wonders and infinite possibilities. The science of all mysteries is about to be revealed before your eyes, along with the hidden wisdom that has been guarded for centuries. This is only the beginning. Welcome to the awakening of a new consciousness. Welcome to the secrets of hidden wisdom, as seen by Helena Blavatsky. Humanity has sought the truth like a pilgrim in the dark, groping through the shadows in search of light. Religions, philosophies, and doctrines have arisen with the promise of answering the fundamental questions of existence. Yet in every era, the truth has been fragmented, distorted, and hidden behind veils of superstition, dogma, and manipulation. However, those who have heard the inner calling, those who have felt in their spirit the restlessness of the known, understand that the answers have always been there, waiting to be discovered by those who possess the will to seek them beyond appearances. This book is not a collection of mere speculations, or a compilation of empty theories that seduce the intellect but leave the soul hungry. Here lie the keys to the mysteries, those teachings that were transmitted in the temples of Egypt, in the hermetic circles of Greece, in hidden monasteries, and in the wisdom schools that have existed in secret throughout the ages. This is not new information, for truth is never new. It is only rediscovered by each generation that dares to seek it. Existence is not a chaos without purpose, nor a blind machine governed by chance. It is ruled by immutable laws that have been understood by the great initiates of all times. The ancients called this knowledge the key to all mysteries, for whoever possesses it holds in their hands the power to transcend the illusion of matter, to comprehend the nature of spirit, and to shape their destiny according to true will. But this knowledge cannot be grasped by those who seek mere entertainment or superficial satisfaction. It is not for those who desire power without responsibility, nor for those looking for easy answers without the effort of inner transformation. As in ancient times, the path of wisdom demands sacrifice, the sacrifice of ignorance, of fear, and of the chains that bind the mind to the mundane. Throughout these pages, the hidden laws that govern the universe will be revealed, the interconnection between science and magic, the influence of invisible forces upon human reality, and the principles that allow the individual to awaken their divine potential. The secrets of the temples and the teachings of the masters, those who have walked before us and left footprints for those with eyes to see, will be unveiled. This book is not a work to be read and forgotten. It is a map, a coded guide that, if fully understood, can open the door to a knowledge that will forever change the perception of the world. But like all profound knowledge, it is not enough to read it. It must be lived, experienced, and applied, for wisdom without action is as useless as light that does not illuminate. The time of revelation has come. The cycles of humanity are closing, and the truth that was hidden for centuries must be restored, not because the mysteries have changed, but because the veil of ignorance must fall once more. For those who are ready, this book will be a beacon in the storm, a tool for awakening, a reminder of what the soul already knows deep within its being. But for those who are not prepared, it will be just a collection of meaningless words. So it has always been, and so it shall be until the end of time. The Key of All Mysteries, Secrets of Hidden Wisdom by Helena Blavatsky. We have noticed that more than 90% of visitors to our channel are not subscribed. You can support this project by pressing the subscribe button and liking the video. Thank you for inspiring us to continue creating more and better content for you. Are you ready to transform your life? Chapter 1. The Great Secret, the Existence of a Hidden Reality. The world into which man is born is not what it seems. From the moment he opens his eyes, his mind is shaped to accept illusion as reality, to believe that only what can be seen, touched, and measured exists. But the ancient sages, those who walked the path of knowledge before us, understood that this apparent reality is but a veil, a shadow projected onto the walls of a cave. What man calls reality is merely a tiny fraction of a vast and unfathomable web, a facade behind which operates a deeper and more powerful truth. From the temples of Egypt to the esoteric teachings of the East, from the mysteries of Eleusis to the Hermetic texts, the same warning has been passed down. The universe is an illusion, a theater where hidden forces pull the strings of existence. Everything that man considers solid is in reality vibration and energy in various states of condensation. What he believes to be his individual identity is but a fleeting mask that conceals his true immortal and boundless essence. Mystics of all eras have spoken of this truth in parables and symbols, for the untrained mind cannot grasp it without falling into the abyss of confusion. Plato described prisoners chained inside a cave, seeing only shadows on the wall and believing them to be the only reality. The alchemists expressed it in their great work, where the lead of ignorance had to be transmuted into the gold of knowledge. The Hindus called it Maya, the veil of illusion that prevents man from seeing his true nature. But what does this really mean? What does it imply for the life of the common man? It means that everything that has been taught about reality is incomplete, that everyday perception is nothing more than a distorted filter of an ocean of forces and entities that exist beyond ordinary perception. It means that what is considered impossible or supernatural is nothing more than the workings of cosmic laws that have been hidden for centuries. Religions have spoken of heavenly and infernal realms, of spiritual entities, and of planes of existence beyond the physical. Yet these accounts have been turned into myths and hollow beliefs by men who have lost the key to their interpretation. What the ancient sages once knew with certainty, modern humanity has relegated to the realm of fantasy. Nevertheless, scientific discoveries are beginning to rediscover what was already inscribed in sacred texts. Matter is not solid, time is not linear, and consciousness is not merely a product of the brain. If everything man experiences is a partial illusion, then who has constructed it? This is the question that the mystery schools have tried to answer throughout the ages. Some have spoken of a cosmic intelligence, of an ordering principle that guides the evolution of existence. Others have pointed to the existence of forces that seek to keep humanity in forgetfulness, in a state of sleep where ultimate reality is inaccessible to the common man. The initiates have understood that the key to unveiling this mystery does not lie in the accumulation of external knowledge, but in the awakening of inner perception. The physical eye can only see the surface of things, but the eye of the spirit, the one the Egyptians represented as the eye of Horus, the one the Hindus called the third eye, is capable of piercing through the layers of illusion and perceiving the truth behind the veil. But what happens when someone begins to see beyond? Awakening is not an act without consequences. Whoever dares to look at the hidden machinery behind existence first experiences the vertigo of uncertainty. Everything once believed to be firm begins to crumble. Accepted truths become obvious lies. The structure of reality, so seemingly stable, reveals itself as a fluctuating system where consciousness interacts with the world in ways that once seemed impossible. Here lies the great secret. The universe is not something external to man, but a reflection of his own consciousness. Reality is not a rigid mechanism, but a field of possibilities in which the mind and spirit play a fundamental role. What humanity calls destiny is, in truth, the result of internal forces shaping the external world, and what is considered immutable is merely an illusion forged by habit and ignorance. The great masters have affirmed that he who understands this truth is no longer a victim of the world, but its architect. Magic, alchemy, and esoteric wisdom are not superstitions, but technologies of consciousness designed for humanity to awaken and reclaim its original power. However, this truth is dangerous to those who have built their power upon the ignorance of the masses, and for that reason, it has been suppressed and condemned throughout history. Yet the truth cannot be buried forever. The existence of a hidden reality is something that, sooner or later, every soul intuits deep within its being. In certain moments of life, in dreams, in inexplicable glimpses, in states of deep meditation, or even during times of crisis, the truth reveals itself in sudden and powerful ways. Some reject it and cling to the security of their illusory world. Others embrace it and begin an irreversible journey toward awakening. This book is for those who have felt that call, for those who have suspected that there is something beyond what the senses show, for those who are not satisfied with the limited explanations of the materialistic world. The existence of a hidden reality is not a myth or a belief, but a certainty that has been known by great sages and masters since time immemorial. But knowing of this great secret is only the first step. What truly matters is knowing what to do with this knowledge, how to use it to transcend the limitations imposed by the profane world and access the true nature of being. He who possesses the will to move forward will discover that reality is far more vast and malleable than he ever imagined. And once he crosses the threshold, there is no turning back. Chapter 2. The Principle of Duality, Light and Darkness in the Universe. Since the dawn of human thought, the wise have understood that all of creation is sustained by the principle of duality. The entire universe is a play of opposing forces that, far from annihilating each other, complement one another, giving shape and purpose to existence. Light and darkness, life and death, motion and stillness, masculine and feminine, spirit and matter, all aspects of reality operate within this eternal dance of contrasts. The mystery schools taught that the key to understanding the cosmos and the human soul lies in the deep comprehension of this principle. However, in the mind of the uninitiated, duality has been misinterpreted as an irreconcilable battle between good and evil, an endless war where one of the poles must be destroyed for the other to prevail. Nothing could be further from the truth. Duality is not a conflict, but a sacred balance. Light could not exist without the shadow that defines it, just as the shadow cannot manifest without the light that projects it. This interdependence is the foundation of existence. Those who seek enlightenment without having understood their own darkness fail in their attempt. Only by facing and transcending both poles can true humanity be reached. The initiates of the mysteries have always known that the path to awakening is not about denying one of the poles, but about integration. In Hermetic tradition, this principle is expressed in the law of polarity. Everything is dual, everything has two poles, everything has its pair of opposites, and spiritual transmutation consists of the ability to move consciously between them until harmony is achieved. The ancient Egyptians represented this idea with the balance between Isis and Osiris, archetypes of the cosmic feminine and masculine principles. The Chinese expressed it in the symbol of yin and yang, where light contains a dot of darkness, and darkness harbors a dot of light, showing that each extreme carries within it the seed of its opposite. The Gnostics spoke of the principle of the demiurge and of the divine light trapped within matter, struggling to reunite with its celestial origin. But what does all this mean in practice? It means that every aspect of our life, our mind and our spirit is governed by this play of forces. Fear and courage, anger and peace, love and hatred are but manifestations of the same principle at different extremes of the spectrum. He who understands this learns to cease being a victim of his emotions and becomes his own master, elevating his consciousness beyond the constant oscillation between opposites. Ignorance of the principle of duality has been one of the main causes of human suffering. By not understanding the natural balance of existence, man has plunged into the illusion that he must destroy one pole to preserve the other. This is how wars, persecutions, and fanaticisms are born. The obsession of men to eradicate what they consider evil without realizing that, in doing so, They are strengthening precisely what they wish to eliminate. The schools of wisdom have taught that the true adept does not reject darkness, nor fear it, but understands it, transcends it, and uses it as a force for their evolution. The shadow that every human being carries within is not an enemy to be exterminated, but a teacher to be integrated. Those who have attained enlightenment have not been those who denied their own darkness, but those who descended into their own abysses, faced their deepest fears, and returned with the wisdom necessary to balance both worlds within themselves. The most common mistake among seekers is to believe that the path toward light involves completely rejecting the shadow. This is not only an act of ignorance, but a dangerous obstacle on the path of evolution. The repressed shadow does not disappear. It grows stronger, hides in the unconscious, and manifests in unexpected ways, taking control of the individual when least expected. This is why the ancient mystics spoke of the dark night of the soul, that moment in which the seeker must confront their own inner chaos before accessing true wisdom. Yet darkness is not the end of the path. It is merely a phase, a trial that every soul must overcome before achieving balance. He who has walked in the shadow without being consumed by it, who has understood his own fears without being enslaved by them, is the one ready to access the true light, not the artificial light of superficial spirituality, but the light that emanates from the deep understanding that everything, absolutely everything, is part of the same primordial energy. The guardians of knowledge have long known that those who wish to control humanity have exploited the ignorance of the principle of duality. They have imposed absolutist visions of good and evil, designed thought systems that divide men into irreconcilable factions, and instilled the fear of darkness in those who could learn to master it. But the truth is that balance has always been the key. The path of the true initiate is neither one of denial nor of blind submission to one of the poles. It is the path of mastery, the conscious recognition that everything that exists is part of the same unity. He who can hold within his spirit both light and shadow without identifying with either has attained the state of absolute freedom. The evolution of the soul is a process of integration, not fragmentation. Each life, each experience, each challenge confronts us with this principle of duality, and in every trial the soul has the opportunity to take one more step on the path of balance or to remain trapped in the endless oscillation between opposites. When mastery of this law is achieved, the individual is no longer swept away by the currents of existence. They become the axis around which the wheel turns, the still point in the midst of chaos, the alchemist who transforms shadow into light and light into pure consciousness. This is the action that the ancient masters have passed down through the centuries, the secret that has been hidden in symbols, myths, and esoteric teachings. The universe is not a war between good and evil, but a balance between two principles that need each other. And whoever transcends this illusion gains access to a knowledge that frees them from all bondage. The next step on this path is to learn to apply this principle in everyday life, in decisions, in thoughts, in the way we relate to the world. Because only when knowledge becomes action and inner transformation does it cease to be a mere concept and becomes the key that opens the door to awakening. Duality is the foundation of existence, but beyond duality, beyond assumptions, there is a point where everything merges into unity, and whoever finds it has discovered the true essence of reality. Chapter 3. Matter and Spirit, Two Faces of the Same Energy. Since ancient times, the sages have taught that the universe is a web of energies in constant motion, a perpetual dance between the visible and the invisible, the dense and the subtle, the physical and the spiritual. However, modern humanity has fallen into the trap of separation, believing that matter and spirit are distinct, opposing, and irreconcilable entities. This false dichotomy has plunged humanity into a limited vision of existence, where the tangible is perceived as the only real thing, and the intangible is dismissed as superstition or mere philosophical abstraction. But the truth safeguarded within the mysteries is different. Matter and spirit are the same energy manifesting at different levels of vibration. What appears solid in the physical world is nothing more than a condensed state of invisible forces, while what we call spirit is simply the most subtle and etheric form of that same primordial energy. Those who have achieved inner vision understand that there is no real division between the two, but a continuity where every aspect of existence flows from one to the other in an eternal process of transformation. The ancient Hermetists expressed this truth in their fundamental axiom: as above, so below, as within, so without. This principle reveals to us that everything that exists in the material world has its counterpart in the subtle planes, and that the visible universe is nothing but the reflection of spiritual forces operating from higher levels of consciousness. The great deception of separation. Why then has humanity been led to believe in a separation between the material and the spiritual? Because those who seek to control the destiny of mankind have understood that a being who is unaware of their divine nature is a weakened being, incapable of reclaiming their true power. By imposing the idea that spirit is something ethereal, unreachable, and separate from physical reality, they have succeeded in chaining souls to the prison of matter, making them believe that the only form of existence is that which can be perceived by the senses. Extreme materialism, with its worship of the tangible and its denial of the invisible, has reduced human perception to a state of slavery, where anything that cannot be measured or quantified is dismissed as unreal. On the other hand, false spiritualities have led many to reject the material world, considering it a trap or a worthless illusion, unaware that matter is as sacred as spirit, and that both are expressions of the same source. The true initiates have known that the key is neither the denial of matter nor the evasion of spirit, but the integration of both. A man who lives only for matter is a slave to his desires, but a man who rejects matter and seeks to flee from earthly existence becomes a shadow without purpose. True mastery lies in understanding that matter is the vehicle of spirit, and spirit is the energy that animates matter. Matter as an expression of spirit. Modern science has begun to approach this truth in ways that ancient philosophy had already foreseen. Quantum physics has shown that matter, at its most fundamental level, is nothing but an oscillation of energy, a vibratory field that changes its state according to observation and intention. What once appeared to be a solid structure is revealed as a series of probabilities, patterns of information that respond to laws much deeper than merely physical ones. The ancient sages of India described this with the concept of prakriti, the primordial substance that takes form under the influence of purusha, the eternal consciousness. In alchemy, this principle was expressed in the relationship between sulfur and mercury, where energy and form combine to give rise to transformation. In the Kabbalah, it is found in the tree of life, where divine energy descends through different levels until it crystallizes in the physical world. But these are not mere metaphors. They are keys that show us how matter is not something alien to spirit, but its densest manifestation. Each thought, each emotion, each intention generates a vibration that eventually materializes in the physical world. Just as water changes state between solid, liquid, and gas, depending on its temperature, universal energy moves between the material and the immaterial without ever ceasing to be the same essence. The human being is a bridge between two worlds. Man is not just a physical body, nor merely an ethereal spirit. He is a bridge between the visible and the invisible, a channel through which the energy of the cosmos expresses itself in manifestation. His body is matter, but his consciousness is spirit, and his mission is to learn to unite both aspects to become a conscious creator of his own reality. The mystery schools have taught that the human being possesses different vehicles of expression: the physical body, the energetic body, the mental body, and the spiritual body. Each of these planes vibrates at a different frequency, but all are interconnected, forming a dynamic system through which consciousness can move and operate with the proper preparation. When an individual awakens to this understanding, they begin to transform their relationship with the world. They stop seeing matter as an obstacle and begin to recognize it as a field of creation. They learn that spirit is not something distant, but the essence that animates every particle of their existence. They understand that everything they experience in life is the result of a constant interaction between their internal energy and the vibratory structure of the universe. Transmutation, the true path of the initiate. The great objective of the spiritual seeker is neither to reject matter nor to get lost in the purely abstract, but to learn to transmute energy between both levels of existence. This is true alchemy, not the conversion of lead into gold in a physical crucible, but the transformation of dense consciousness into luminous consciousness. Those who have mastered this teaching have learned to control their own vibration, manifesting in the material world that which their spirit has conceived. They have understood that every thought has a form, that every emotion is a force, and that the external reality is a reflection of the internal reality. Magic, manifestation, and conscious creation are not mere fantasies, but the practical application of the law that unites matter and spirit. The awakening of consciousness and the integration of opposites. At this crucial moment in humanity's history, the separation between matter and spirit must be overcome. Humanity has been divided between those who live for matter, unaware of their essence, and those who seek spirit without understanding their role in the world. Both paths are incomplete, and only the one who integrates both aspects will attain the fullness of being. This knowledge has been safeguarded within the mysteries, but it is now being restored for those who are ready to receive it. For the time of ignorance is coming to an end, and the revelation of the unity between the visible and the invisible will mark the beginning of a new era of understanding and power for those who dare to cross the threshold. Matter and spirit are two faces of the same energy, two expressions of the same source. The key is not in choosing one over the other, but in learning to move between both. This is the hidden teaching that the great masters have transmitted to those who have proven themselves worthy of knowing it. The question is not whether this truth is real, but whether you are ready to experience it. For the one who understands the unity between matter and spirit understands the secret of the universe itself. Chapter 4. Time and Destiny. Is everything written? Man has gazed at the night sky since time immemorial, searching the stars for answers to his destiny, questioning the universe in his desire to understand whether life is a predetermined path or if his will can alter the course of events. He has bowed before gods and prophets, consulted oracles, and charted maps of the stars, believing that the key to his destiny lies outside himself. But the great paradox is that the answer is not found externally, but within the very structure of his consciousness. The illusion of time is a prison for the unawakened mind. But for the one who has crossed the threshold of knowledge, the past and the future are one and the same, an intertwined spiral of causes and effects in an eternal dance. From the most ancient mysteries, it has been taught that time is not linear but cyclical, and that human existence is woven into a fabric of forces that respond to immutable universal laws. Everything that has been, everything that is, and everything that will be coexists in the eternal now. What the limited mind perceives as a sequence of events is nothing more than a projection of its own inability to see the whole. The serpent devouring its own tail, the Ouroboros of the alchemists, is not a simple symbol. It is the representation of time as a cycle without beginning or end, a perpetual movement in which each instant contains the entirety of becoming. The ancient initiates knew that the destiny of a man is not a book already written, but neither is it a blank page without structure. It is a weaving between necessity and choice, between law and will. In the Kabbalah, the paths of the tree of life are described as possibilities within a grand design, and in the Vedas, karma is described as the inevitable consequence of past actions, but never as an immutable sentence. Man can change his destiny to the extent that he awakens his consciousness and understands the forces that govern him. But for the one who lives asleep, time is an inexorable current that drags him along without resistance. There are planes where time unfolds differently from how we perceive it on Earth. In the subtle realms, what we call past and future coexist simultaneously as a vast network of possibilities that individual consciousness can navigate, according to its level of development. Those who have mastered the art of inner vision have been able to peer beyond the veil of temporal illusion and see what is impossible for the common man to conceive. That destiny is not a fixed line, but a malleable field of energy, where every thought, every emotion and every decision alters the trajectory of the soul on its eternal journey. For this reason, the true masters have never spoken of absolute predestination, but neither have they claimed that destiny is a formless illusion. Human will is a divine fire capable of shaping matter and altering the vibration of its surroundings, but this will is not a whim without consequences. Every action creates an echo in eternity, every thought plants a seed in the web of the universe, and every emotion is a thread woven into the cosmic tapestry of existence. Those who have understood these truths have learned to read the signs of time, to perceive the hidden patterns that dictate the flow of events, to interpret the cosmic cycles as a language revealing the direction in which consciousness moves. The astrologers of antiquity did not limit themselves to predicting the future. They understood the influence of celestial forces on the vibration of the human being. They knew that the universe is not a blind mechanism, but a living structure that responds to the interaction of the beings who inhabit it. Thus, one who knows how to observe the cycles of time can anticipate their effects and act in harmony with the currents that govern the evolution of the soul. But the knowledge of time is a double-edged sword, for the one who possesses it faces the greatest test, the responsibility to act wisely. An initiate who understands the structure of destiny cannot afford the luxury of ignorance nor justify inaction in the face of the apparent inevitability of events. Knowing that time is flexible, that the future is nothing more than a shadow cast from the present, implies the obligation to take control of one's own existence and shape it according to the higher will. The mystery schools have taught that there are key moments in every soul's life, thresholds where choices arise that can alter its course forever. These moments are known as karmic turning points, where the veil between dimensions thins and consciousness has the opportunity to transcend its own limitations. These are instants where destiny and will meet face to face, where the human being can break patterns repeated over countless lives and make a leap in their evolution, or remain trapped in the circle of repetition and forgetfulness. Those who have awakened to this understanding no longer fear time, for they have seen that they are not its prisoners, but its architects. They have understood that yesterday and tomorrow exist only in the minds of those who still believe in the illusion of separation, and that there is only one moment where true action can occur, the eternal now. The masters of wisdom have insisted that the key to transcendence is not in trying to control the future, nor in lamenting the past, but in anchoring consciousness in the present with absolute fullness. Only in this state can one see with clarity. Only in this state can one access true freedom, but the common man fears this truth because he prefers the safety of illusion over the uncertainty of responsibility. He prefers to believe that his destiny is something external to him, something that can be guessed or changed effortlessly. He does not understand that every thought he emits, every emotion he cultivates, every action he performs is a brick in the construction of his own destiny. And so he continues to seek answers outside, unaware that the only answer has always been within himself. Time is a river that flows in all directions, a mirror reflecting the inner states of the soul. For the ignorant, it is a chain dragging him along without control. For the wise, it is a tool to be used with mastery. Everything is written, but not with indelible ink, rather with the light of consciousness. And the one who awakens to this truth becomes the author of their own story, the weaver of their own destiny, the architect of their eternity. Chapter 5. The Universal Vibration. Everything in existence responds to a frequency. Everything that exists vibrates, from the invisible structure of the atom to the immensity of the galaxies, from the whisper of the wind to the symphony of the celestial spheres, from the subtlest thought to the densest stone. All is vibration, movement, energy in different states of manifestation. The entire universe is an ocean of frequencies that interact, intertwine, and influence one another in a perpetual dance, a cosmic symphony where every being, every thing, and every thought is a note in the infinite score of existence. The ancient sages understood this truth and transmitted it in the temples of Egypt, in the monasteries of the East, and in the Hermetic teachings of the West. They told us that the key to the universe lies not in form, but in the vibration that sustains it, that what we call matter is nothing more than crystallized energy, halted in a particular state of oscillation. That the human mind, with its thoughts and emotions, is not a mere biological mechanism, but a transmitter and receiver of frequencies that shape reality. But humanity, trapped in the illusion of the senses, has forgotten this knowledge. It has come to believe that what is solid is real, that what is visible is the only thing that exists, that what cannot be touched holds no power over its destiny. And so it has been manipulated by forces that have long known how to use the principle of vibration to impose their dominion over sleeping minds. The great initiates have always known that the one who controls vibration controls reality, magic, alchemy, conscious manifestation, healing, the transformation of the self, all depend on the mastery of the frequency at which we vibrate. The difference between an ordinary man and a master is not the amount of knowledge they possess, but the level of vibration at which their consciousness operates. Every emotion, every thought, every spoken word generates a specific vibration that resonates within the very fabric of the universe. Anger, fear, and despair emit low frequencies that densify reality with their vibration. Love, peace, and wisdom emit high frequencies that attune consciousness to more subtle planes of existence, opening doors to spiritual understanding and power. The mystery schools taught their disciples to master vibration through the word, through thought, and through sound. In Egypt, the initiates were trained in the use of the sacred verb, understanding that every word spoken was energy that modified the structure of reality. In India, mantras were used as vibrational keys to connect the mind with the higher frequencies of the cosmos. In the esoteric tradition of the West, the use of symbols, intonations, and sigils were tools to alter states of consciousness and access hidden dimensions. But vibration does not operate only in the mind and spirit. It is also present in the structure of the physical body. Every cell, every organ, every fluid in the body responds to a specific frequency. When the vibration is harmonic, the body experiences health and balance. When the vibration is distorted, disease, degeneration, and disconnection from the source of vital energy arise. For this reason, true healers do not work on illness as an isolated phenomenon, but on the vibration that has generated it. The common man is unaware that his environment, his thoughts, and the energies he surrounds himself with determine the vibrational state of his being. He constantly exposes himself to frequencies that weaken his spirit, to discordant sounds, to words charged with negativity, to dense emotions that drag him towards states of suffering and hopelessness. He lives submerged in a sea of imposed vibrations, shaped by systems that have learned to manipulate his energy without him even realizing it. The great structures of control have understood that to subjugate humanity, physical chains are not necessary. The manipulation of vibrations suffices. Communication systems, modern music, the layout of cities, the frequency of electromagnetic waves, everything has been designed to keep human consciousness in a state of dense vibration, preventing its connection to higher planes of existence. Yet the key to liberation has always been in the hands of those who possess knowledge. Just as vibration can be used for control, it can also be used for the emancipation of the spirit. He who learns to raise his frequency begins to transform his reality inevitably. Life ceases to be a series of chaotic events and becomes a conscious manifestation of his own vibration. The initiate in the mysteries learns to work with his own frequency before attempting to change the external world. He understands that everything he experiences is the reflection of his vibrational state, and that to alter his destiny, he must first alter his energy. He does not fight against circumstances, nor does he rebel against the world. Instead, he becomes an alchemist of vibration, transmuting each emotion, each thought, each word into a tool of power. Those who have mastered this knowledge can alter matter, heal diseases, attract events in harmony with their intention, and expand their consciousness beyond the limits imposed by ordinary perception. They have understood that reality is not something random, but a precise response to the vibration they emit. In this moment in history, where the frequencies of the world have been distorted to plunge humanity into fear and confusion, the knowledge of vibration is more important than ever. It is not enough to understand this principle intellectually. It must be applied, lived, integrated into every aspect of existence. Those who learn to listen to the vibration of the universe can decipher its mysteries. They can see beyond appearances, feel the energy of places and people, communicate with invisible planes, and manifest their purpose in perfect harmony with cosmic forces. But this knowledge is not for those seeking shortcuts or effortless formulas. It is for those willing to transform their being from the root, to break free from the vibrational chains that bind them to the illusion of powerlessness, and to consciously take control of their own existence. The universal vibration is the key to everything. Whoever understands it, understands the universe. Whoever masters it, masters their destiny. And whoever aligns with it transcends the illusion of matter and becomes a conscious creator of their own reality. Chapter 6. The power of the mind, the creation of reality through thought. Since the dawn of humanity, man has sought the secret of power, the dominion over his destiny, and control of the forces that govern existence. He has tried to subdue nature, to bend the elements, and to conquer the external world without understanding that true power does not reside in the material, but in the most hidden and sublime principle, the power of the mind. Everything that exists in manifestation is first and foremost an idea, a thought projected into the ether, a vibration that has densified until becoming what the senses perceive as real. The mystery schools have taught that the mind is not merely an instrument of the intellect, but the key to creation, the point of connection between spirit and matter, the force that shapes reality according to its level of development. Everything man experiences is the reflection of his mental states, of his deepest beliefs, of the images held by his consciousness. What dominates his mind dominates his life, for the universe does not respond to empty wishes or directionless hopes, but to the inner certainty of what one believes is possible. The difference between a master and a common man does not lie in external circumstances, but in the degree of control each exercises over their own mind. The initiate knows that the world is nothing more than a projection of his consciousness, a mirror that reflects with absolute precision the frequency at which his thoughts vibrate. But the profane, trapped in the illusion of separation, believes that his life is determined by external forces, by chance, or by a destiny imposed by others. He does not understand that he himself, with every thought he sustains and every emotion he cultivates, is charting the paths of his existence. Thought is not a formless abstraction, but a living energy that emanates from the individual and is projected into the invisible planes before materializing in the physical world. Each idea generates a vibration that merges with the great ocean of creation, attracting circumstances, people, and events in perfect resonance with its frequency. Fear, doubt, and hopelessness are forces that densify one's vibration and bind them to a reality of scarcity and limitation. But faith, certainty, and unshakable will elevate vibration and open the doors to a broader, richer reality, one more aligned with the true nature of the spirit. The ancients knew that the mind not only creates individual reality, but also influences the very fabric of the universe. Hermetic tradition taught that all is mind, that the entire cosmos is an emanation of an infinite consciousness, and therefore the human mind, as a spark of that universal consciousness, possesses the same creative power in its corresponding scale. Whoever understands this ceases to be a victim of circumstances and becomes a conscious creator, an architect of their own destiny. However, the common man has been conditioned to ignore this power. From birth, he has been taught that his thoughts are insignificant, that his desires are illusory, and that his mind is merely a biological machine incapable of influencing reality. He has been programmed to doubt himself, to accept the limitations imposed by control systems that seek to keep him asleep, disconnected from his true potential. He has been told that his life depends on external forces, on luck, on the will of others, and thus he has forgotten that every thought crossing his mind is a seed that will sooner or later germinate in his destiny. The initiates of the mysteries knew that the mind is the greatest of powers, and that its mastery is the first great trial on the path to enlightenment. Those who do not learn to control their thoughts remain at the mercy of external currents, dragged by influences they do not understand, shaped by foreign energies that keep them prisoners in a state of ignorance and dependence. But those who manage to take control of their minds discover that they can alter the course of events, that they can transform their circumstances, and that the world, far from being a relentless enemy, is a blank canvas on which they can imprint their will. Repeated thoughts, those held with strength and emotion, become structures in the invisible planes, vibrational patterns that attract their equivalent in the physical world. This is the law that governs manifestation, the principle that the wise have used to shape their destiny and that the profane have ignored, trapped in the whirlwind of an uncontrolled mind. Whoever fills their mind with thoughts of scarcity, suffering, and despair can only attract more of the same. But whoever cultivates certainty, abundance, and inner peace will inevitably see those same qualities reflected in their environment. Modern science has begun to discover what the ancients already knew. Neuroscience has shown that the brain, far from being a rigid mechanism, is malleable, capable of reorganizing itself according to the thoughts that are constantly repeated. Quantum physics has revealed that reality behaves differently when it is observed, that consciousness itself seems to influence the behavior of matter. But what scientists are just beginning to explore, the sages of old already knew and applied in their daily lives, for they understood that reality is malleable and that the mind is the chisel that shapes its structure. However, this knowledge is useless if it is not applied with discipline and mastery. It is not enough to wish, it is not enough to imagine, it is not enough to repeat empty words. The mind only responds to deep conviction, to the absolute certainty that what is projected within is already a reality in the invisible planes. The power of thought lies in its purity, in its intensity, in its ability to sustain itself without contradiction or doubt. The true masters of mental creation have learned to focus their energy with precision, to hold an image in their minds with such absolute clarity that the universe has no choice but to reflect it in the external world. They do not allow their minds to wander in uncertainty. They do not let contrary thoughts weaken their purpose. They have understood that the mind is a divine instrument that must be tuned with the same dedication with which a musician tunes his instrument before a great symphony. The man who does not master his mind is a slave to his environment, but the man who learns to control his thought becomes a conscious creator, an architect of his destiny, a channel through which the forces of the universe can manifest in their fullest expression. This is the power that has been hidden from humanity, the secret that has been disguised, ridiculed, and suppressed by those who wish to maintain control over the collective consciousness. But the time of awakening has arrived, and those who are ready to reclaim their true power will find in the mastery of the mind the key to transforming their existence. Every thought is a seed. Every mental image is a blueprint. Every emotion is a vibration that shapes reality. And he who understands this truth, who dares to experience it with total conviction, will discover that there are no limits, that there is no imposed destiny, that everything that exists in his life is the result of his own creation. This is the secret that the masters have guarded since time immemorial, and now, in this era of change, it is time for those who are prepared to claim it as their divine right. For he who masters his mind masters his destiny, and he who masters his destiny becomes the architect of his own eternity. Chapter 7, Guardians and Usurpers, the intelligences that influence human destiny. Modern man, trapped in his materialistic vision of the world, considers himself the only architect of his destiny, the only conscious being in a purposeless universe. He believes that his thoughts belong to him, that his decisions are the exclusive product of his will, and that his life is an individual construction, free from all external influence. But this is an illusion carefully woven by forces that have worked since ancient times to conceal the truth. Humanity has never been alone, has never been independent from the intelligences that surround it, and its destiny has been diverted, manipulated, and directed by entities operating from invisible planes. The initiates of the mysteries have always known that the cosmos is not an indifferent void, but a stage where multiple hierarchies of beings coexist, interact, and struggle for control of human consciousness. Some of these beings have acted as guardians of knowledge, guides of the soul's evolution, protectors of humanity on its path of ascension. Others, however, have sought to subjugate men, imprison them in a state of ignorance, prevent their awakening, and use them as a source of energy for their own benefit. These intelligences, to which the ancients gave many names and which religions have disguised with incomplete mythologies, operate on all levels of existence. There are those who have been called gods, angels, masters of light, ascended beings, guardians of hidden knowledge, whose mission has been to preserve and transmit the flame of knowledge to those ready to receive it. But there are also those who have been called archons, shadows, parasitic entities, astral predators whose sole purpose is to keep man asleep, enslaved in the illusion of the material world, disconnected from his true nature. The guardians have worked in secret throughout history, guiding sincere seekers toward the truth, leaving fragments of hidden knowledge in temples, in symbols, in closed books that only awakened eyes can interpret. They have manifested through dreams, visions, coded messages that have reached the initiates at critical moments in history, revealing to them the path to follow. They have been the silent instructors of those who have founded the great traditions of wisdom, the ones who have whispered in the minds of alchemists, mystics, and philosophers, those few who have been able to receive their teachings without being consumed by pride or ambition. But the usurpers have also worked in the shadows. Since the dawn of civilization, they have infiltrated belief systems, distorted the truth, introduced fear, guilt, and confusion into the minds of men. They have created religions to control instead of liberate. They have designed structures of power that suffocate the search for knowledge. They have inspired wars and divisions to keep humanity distracted from the only battle that truly matters, the struggle for the sovereignty of its own consciousness. It is no coincidence that throughout history, those who have tried to reveal the truth have been persecuted, condemned, silenced. It is no accident that the great masters have spoken in parables, that secret societies have had to hide their knowledge in symbols and codes, that the libraries of the ancients have been burned, and that sacred texts have been manipulated to serve the interests of those who seek to perpetuate ignorance. Because the battle between guardians and usurpers is not a war of visible armies. It is a conflict fought in the mind and soul of every human being, a silent battle in which every thought, every decision, every belief determines on which side each individual stands. The guardians operate through the knowledge of inner awakening and the expansion of consciousness. They do not impose their will, they do not manipulate, nor do they demand worship. They simply show the way and allow each soul to decide if it is ready to walk it. Their influence manifests in the deep intuition that pushes the seeker to question the world around him, in the spark of inspiration that leads him to explore beyond what he has been taught, in the feeling that there is something greater than the visible reality. The usurpers, on the other hand, operate through fear, distraction, and hopelessness. They are the ones who whisper in the minds of men that there is no purpose, that life is meaningless suffering, that matter is the only reality, and that death is the absolute end. They are the ones who inspire the control systems that keep humanity trapped in an empty routine, the ones who have designed power structures based on lies and manipulation. They feed on the energy of dense emotions, pain, despair, and ignorance. The great tragedy of humanity is that most men don't even suspect that this battle exists. They live their lives believing that their thoughts are their own, that their desires come from their own being, and that their beliefs have been freely chosen. They do not understand that every influence they receive, every image they see, every word they hear has been carefully designed to keep them in a low vibration, disconnected from their true essence. But those who have awakened begin to see the threads moving behind the curtain. They begin to recognize the signs, perceive the presence of the guardians in moments when truth unexpectedly emerges, in the chance encounters that lead them to new levels of understanding, in the dreams that reveal what the rational mind cannot grasp. They also begin to identify the usurpers, noticing patterns in the chaos of the world, understanding how the structures that have supposedly been designed to guide humanity do nothing but oppress it. The destiny of man is not completely written, but it is influenced by these forces. Each of us is a battlefield where this struggle is fought. Every thought is a weapon that can be used to liberate us or to chain us even further. Humanity has reached a turning point where it is no longer possible to remain ignorant of this reality. Those who choose to remain asleep do so by their own will, and those who choose to awaken must do so with full awareness of what this entails. The guardians have left the keys, arranged the signs, and opened the doors for those who wish to cross them, but they cannot force anyone to enter. The usurpers, on the other hand, will do everything in their power to keep the door closed, to convince men that there is nothing beyond, that the only truth is the one they have been conditioned to accept. Every human being must decide whom to listen to, which voice to follow, and which path to choose. The war for consciousness is not a myth, it is not a metaphor. It is the ultimate reality that determines the fate of every soul. And he who dares to see the truth without fear, he who learns to discern between light and shadow, between knowledge and manipulation, will discover that the greatest freedom is not found in the external world, but in the absolute sovereignty of his own being. Chapter 8. The Ancient Temples, Places of Power and Gates to Other Dimensions. Since time immemorial, man has felt an inexplicable attraction to certain places in the world, sites where the earth seems to vibrate with a different energy, where the gods seem to have left their mark, and where sensitive souls perceive a threshold between the visible and the invisible. These are the ancient temples, structures that, more than monuments of stone, are keys to hidden realities, portals erected with the intention of connecting humans to higher dimensions of existence. Ancient civilizations did not build their temples by chance or mere religious symbolism. In them, the architecture, orientation, and arrangement of each element adhered to principles of cosmic harmony that only the initiated could understand. The pyramids of Egypt, the temples of India, the ziggurats of Mesopotamia, the ruins of Tiwanaku, the dolmens of Europe, all of these places were designed with a purpose that transcends simple devotion. They were condensers of energy, receivers and transmitters of cosmic forces that the priests and sages used to expand their consciousness, communicate with higher intelligences, and influence the subtle planes of the universe. The ancient temples were not just abodes of the gods, but spiritual machines, structures that operated with laws of vibration and resonance, designed to tune human energy with universal forces. In them, sound, geometry, astronomical orientation, and the materials used served to amplify the power of the mind and spirit. It was said that within them, perception was altered, time dilated, and prepared souls could cross the veils of matter to glimpse realities that common men could not imagine. Modern science, despite its skepticism, has begun to discover that these places are not mere ruins of ancient civilizations, but are located at specific points on Earth where the planet's energy is different. The so-called ley lines, energy networks that travel the world, connect the most important temples, forming a network that suggests advanced knowledge of geophysics and magnetism. How did the ancients know that these locations had special power? Who taught them to erect structures that would resist millennia, aligned with constellations and astronomical cycles that modern humanity is only beginning to understand? The initiates into the mysteries have always known that space and time are not absolute barriers, but dimensions that can be manipulated through the right knowledge. In the temples of Egypt, it was taught that the pyramids were not tombs, as academic ignorance would have us believe, but devices designed for the transmutation of the soul, for the expansion of consciousness beyond the physical world. In Tibetan monasteries, monks have preserved techniques to alter the perception of time and access planes where the masters of old still live. In the lost cities of America, shamans spoke of invisible doors that led to the other side, realms where gods and ancestors still walk. The common man, disconnected from his intuition, walks among these temples like a tourist, not understanding that each stone, each symbol, each alignment contains a lesson, a vibration, a hidden message. He believes they are merely remnants of the past, not noticing that the energy still flows in these places, that the echoes of ancient rituals still resonate, waiting for those with eyes to see and ears to hear. But the temples have not only been doors to the divine, they have also been objects of usurpation and manipulation throughout history. The forces that wish to keep humanity in ignorance have tried to appropriate these places. They have erected churches over temples, sealed sacred chambers, and distorted the symbols to make their meaning lost in confusion. The great institutions of power have used these sites not for awakening, but for control, diverting their energy toward dark purposes, altering their vibration with rites that have nothing to do with spiritual elevation. However, the truth cannot be buried forever. The temples, though in ruins, continue to emit their call. Those who have awakened feel their attraction, are inexplicably guided toward them, and experience visions, intuitions, and memories that do not seem to belong to them, but emerge as though their soul has known them since ancient times. It is the echo of the ancient initiations, the trace of souls that, in other lives, walked their halls, heard their teachings, and crossed the thresholds that separate this world from the invisible realms. In many of these places, the ancient traditions spoke of doors to other dimensions. In Pumapunku, it was said that certain priests could pass through the monoliths and disappear into the doorway of the gods. In Peru, there are records of shamans who entered deep trances and emerged with knowledge that could not be explained. In the temples of India, the siddhas spoke of tunnels that led to inner worlds, parallel realities that coexist with ours. Modern humanity, trapped in its materialism, mocks these stories, unable to accept that the reality it perceives is but a fraction of existence. But those who have experienced these phenomena, those who have felt the energy of these places, know that they are not mere legends. The temples were and still are cosmic antennas, points of connection with the intelligences that have guided human evolution since time immemorial. The big question that few ask is, if these temples were designed to connect humanity with the divine, what would happen if the knowledge to activate them were restored? If man were to once again understand the secrets of vibration, geometry, and astronomical alignment? If the ancient rites, those that were banned and ridiculed, were once again performed with the right intention? The mystery schools have always known that these places can still be awakened, that their energy has not been destroyed, only asleep, and that when the time is right, those who remember their purpose will be able to cross again the thresholds that lead to lost knowledge. The temples are not ruins, they are doors waiting to be opened, and the key has always been in the hands of those who have awakened to the call. Chapter 9, Magic in Science, the Bridge Between Two Worlds. Since the dawn of civilization, humanity has sought to understand the forces that govern the universe. In its quest to uncover the secrets of existence, it has traced two parallel paths, magic and science. For centuries, these paths were one, intertwined in the same search for truth, guided by those who understood that reality is much broader than what the senses can perceive. But at some point in history, the forces of ignorance imposed an artificial division between these two worlds, separating esoteric knowledge from the rational method, discrediting the occult as superstition, and elevating science to the status of the sole authority on the nature of existence. However, truth can never be shackled by dogma. Those who have studied the essence of both magic and science in depth know that they are not opposites, but manifestations of the same principle. The human consciousness's ability to interact with the laws of the cosmos. Magic, in its purest form, is the art of influencing reality through will, intention, and the knowledge of invisible forces. Science, in its highest sense, is the study of the rules that govern the universe and how these can be manipulated. When both disciplines unite, the bridge that connects the visible with the invisible, matter with energy, and mind with the outer world, is revealed. The ancients made no distinction between what we now call science and what modernity scorns as magic. The priests of Egypt, the druids of Europe, and the alchemists of the Middle Ages all understood that the universe is an interconnected vibrational structure, and that the key to operating within it did not lie in blind belief, but in the precise knowledge of its laws. For them, magic was not fantasy, but a method, a practice based on the mastery of mind, energy, and matter. The alchemical formulas, which science reduced to mere attempts to transmute metals, were actually a deep system for transforming consciousness, developing inner power, and understanding the relationship between the microcosm and the macrocosm. The study of astronomy was linked to astrological knowledge because they knew that the stars were not just gas spheres in the void, but manifestations of cosmic forces that influenced life on Earth. Ancient texts spoke of the relationship between sound and matter, a concept that modern science is just beginning to understand with theories of frequency and vibration. But as the world fell under the control of those who wished to manipulate knowledge, magic was discredited, ridiculed, and eventually prohibited. The guardians of wisdom were persecuted, their texts burned, and their practices condemned as heresy. Science, on the other hand, was domesticated, reduced to a rigid method that ignored anything that could not be measured with physical instruments, distancing itself from its original purpose of exploring the totality of existence. Yet science has now reached a point where it is forced to rediscover what magic has always known. Quantum physics has shown that reality is not fixed, that particles can behave differently when observed, and that consciousness has a measurable effect on matter. Neuroscience has begun to explore how thought and emotion modify the brain's structure and affect the body's health. Biology has discovered that human intention can influence living matter, that the energy of the observer changes the structure of DNA, and that the mind is not confined to the skull, but extends as an influence field around the body. All of this confirms what ancient sages taught in temples and mystery schools. Reality is malleable, consciousness is the key to creation, and energy responds to human intention. What science now calls the wave function collapse is nothing more than the modern translation of what mystics have described as the manifestation of thought into reality. What doctors now refer to as the placebo effect is tangible proof that the mind has the power to alter the physiology of the body. What the theory of morphogenetic fields has begun to explore is nothing but scientific confirmation of the universal records and memory. But science still fears pronouncing certain words. It resists calling magic what it cannot explain with equations, clinging to the illusion that matter is the only reality and that the spiritual is a subjective, unfounded construct. Nevertheless, discoveries continue to push the boundaries of its understanding, and sooner or later, it will have to acknowledge what has been evident to initiates for millennia, that the universe is not an inert mechanism but a living, vibrant, conscious structure. The union of magic and science is inevitable. The era of absolute materialism is crumbling, and the knowledge that was hidden for centuries is resurfacing in a world where ancient teachings and new discoveries are beginning to converge. Those who still cling to the reductionist view of existence will be forced to rethink their beliefs, for every day more evidence emerges that thought influences reality, that energy can be directed with intention, and that the ancient practices of healing, manifestation, and transmutation were not superstitions, but applications of universal laws that modern science is only beginning to comprehend. True initiates do not see conflict between magic and science because they know that both are parts of the same truth. They know that magic is not a trick or an illusion, but the conscious application of principles that govern the universe, principles that can be studied, understood, and used with precision. They also know that science, when freed from its dogmas, is a powerful tool for exploring the mysteries of existence, for unlocking the codes of reality, and for expanding knowledge beyond the limits imposed by ignorance. He who understands this will become the bridge between both worlds, no longer seeing magic as fantasy or science as a materialist prison, but as two expressions of the same power, the power of consciousness over creation. And when that bridge is re-established, when knowledge once again becomes one, humanity will reclaim its rightful place as co-creators of the universe, masters of their own reality, as both magicians and scientists who understand that thought is the seed of all manifestation, and that enlightened will is the force that shapes destiny. The time of separation has ended. The key has been revealed. Only those willing to transcend their limitations will be able to cross the threshold and claim the knowledge that has always been there, waiting to be remembered. Chapter 10, The Code of Symbols, Key Elements of the Universal Language. Since time immemorial, humanity has sought to decipher the secrets of the universe through words, doctrines, and systems of thought. However, the wise ones of antiquity knew that truth could not be confined to common language, that the essence of transcendental knowledge could not be contained in phrases limited by human reason. Therefore, eternal wisdom has been preserved in the only language that cannot be distorted, in the only code that transcends time, culture, and manipulation, the language of symbols. Symbols are not mere adornments or artistic representations. They are keys that open the doors of the unconscious, precise mechanisms designed to awaken the hidden memory in the soul, encrypted maps that contain the structure of the cosmos and the human being. They were not created by human intellect, but revealed through deep contemplation and communion with the higher planes of observation, through the rhythm of the universe. Every true symbol is a condensation of energy and information, a portal that connects the visible with the invisible, the material with the spiritual. Ancient civilizations understood this principle and imprinted their knowledge in emblems, hieroglyphs, mandalas, closed inscriptions, and geometric constructions. They did not do so for mere artistic expression, but because they knew that the symbol is the only way to transmit truth without losing its essence. While words can be distorted, symbols remain intact, resonating in the consciousness of those prepared to understand their message. The Egyptians carved their wisdom into the walls of temples and on the seals of initiates, hiding in every image a knowledge concealed from the eyes of the uninitiated. The Kabbalah encoded the structure of the universe in the paths of the tree of life, showing the relationship between the macrocosm and the microcosm. The alchemists hid their formulas in emblems and seals, protecting their wisdom from those unprepared to receive it. In the East, mandalas and yantras were designed to transmit specific vibrations and awaken the spirit of those who contemplated them. But symbols have not only been used by the guardians of light, they have also been appropriated and distorted by those who seek control over humanity. For whoever understands the power of the symbol understands the power of the mind, and whoever masters the mind masters reality. Control systems have learned to manipulate the deepest archetypes of the collective unconscious, introducing images that awaken fear, desire, submission, or apathy, programming the masses without them even suspecting that their thinking is being shaped from planes they cannot perceive. Temples, cathedrals, and imperial palaces have been adorned with symbols whose true meaning has been forgotten by the common man. Flags, logos, and insignias of power in the modern world are not mere visual marks, but ways of encoding energy, directing the consciousness of the masses without their awareness. Humanity, ignorant of the influence of the symbol, is guided by forces that operate in invisible planes, not understanding that every image it observes, every emblem it adopts, every sign it imbues into its reality is programming its mind and its destiny. But the initiate is different. The initiate learns to read the language of symbols. By doing so, they tear the veil of illusion and understand that sacred emblems are not mere adornments but keys to activate awakening. They know that the ancients left coded clues in architecture, traditions, and closed texts, waiting for the moment when humanity would be ready to remember their meaning. The all-seeing eye, the labyrinth, the serpent, the five-pointed star, the spiral, the lotus, the dragon, the phoenix, the circle, and the cross, each of these symbols contains a mystery, a teaching, a vibration that resonates in the deepest levels of being. It is not enough to know them intellectually. True understanding arises when the soul recognizes them, when intuition awakens, and the connection to the lost knowledge is restored. The temples of Egypt still emit their call to those who know how to interpret their hieroglyphs as more than historical records. The codices of the Maya and the Aztecs still await being read with the eyes of the spirit, revealing knowledge that official history has tried to bury. The geometry of the pyramids, the circles of the Druids, the secret designs of medieval builders are not relics of the past, but transmitters of truths that have remained latent, waiting for humanity to regain its ability to see beyond the obvious. Whoever studies the language of symbols begins to see reality with new eyes. They discover that the universe itself is a code, that every pattern in nature, every form in creation, every manifestation of existence responds to geometric principles that reflect divine order, the golden number, the proportion of the spiral, the fractal structure of life. All of this is part of the hidden language with which the cosmos communicates with those who know how to listen. But the path of the symbol is not just a theoretical study, it is a path of inner transformation. Whoever meditates on sacred emblems, who contemplates them with intention, who integrates them into their life, begins to awaken their consciousness and attune to the forces they represent. It is no coincidence that the ancients meditated before specific symbols, that altars were decorated with precise signs, and that initiates surrounded themselves with images that resonated with their purpose. For the symbol does not only transmit knowledge, it transmits power, and whoever understands it ceases to be a prisoner of illusion and becomes a master of manifestation. The guardians of wisdom left symbols as clues, as fragments of a universal language that can be understood by those who have awakened. But usurpers have tried to steal them, distort them, and use them to impose their own purposes. Therefore, it is necessary to recover their true meaning, to decipher the message buried under layers of confusion, and to restore the wisdom that the ancients encoded in these unbreakable codes. It is no coincidence that in dreams, visions, and moments of deep inspiration, symbols appear before words. It is because the soul recognizes them, because the spirit understands them without the need for explanation. The essential truth does not need to be translated into rational phrases. It is enough to see it, feel it, and remember it. The language of symbols is the language of the universe. Whoever masters it can unlock the secrets of existence, understand the hidden messages in nature, in closed architecture, in dreams, and in meditation. They can break the chains of manipulation and claim their right to the truth. The time of ignorance has come to an end. The keys have been revealed. The only remaining question is, who will dare to use them? Chapter 11. Reincarnation and Karma, the Architecture of the Soul. Modern man, trapped in the illusion of linear time, clings to the belief that his existence is unique, that his life is a brief flash between birth and death, and that after his final breath, his consciousness will dissolve into nothingness or be judged by a higher power. This idea, imposed and reinforced by dogmas seeking to keep humanity imprisoned by fear and ignorance, has caused man to forget what his soul has known since the beginning of time, that existence is not a single life, but an unceasing flow of experiences, an eternal journey of ascent and return to the source from which all emanates. From the temples of Egypt to the Vedic texts of India, from Druidic traditions to the teachings of the Essenes, true reincarnation has been passed down from generation to generation to those who are prepared to receive it. It is not a theory nor a mere belief. It is a fundamental law of existence, an immutable principle that governs the destiny of each soul on its path to enlightenment. The soul is not a fleeting phenomenon nor a spark that emerges from nothing. It is an eternal entity, a fragment of universal consciousness that descends into matter again and again to learn, evolve, and perfect itself through experience. Each life is a page in an infinite book. Each incarnation is a chapter in the story of a being that traverses eons in search of the knowledge that will lead it back to its divine origin. But the journey of the soul is not random or capricious. It does not incarnate by chance into any body at any time in arbitrary circumstances. The law that governs reincarnation is the law of karma, the principle of cause and effect that binds each action, thought, and emotion to the fabric of destiny. What a being has sown in a past life, it reaps in the next. What it has built with its will, it finds in its future, not as punishment, not as reward, but as the natural result of the energy it has set into motion. The ancient sages taught that karma is not a condemnation, but a mechanism of balance, a perfect reflection of the vibration that each being emits throughout its existence. It is not an external force that imposes its justice, but the inevitable consequence of an individual's own acts. Who sows violence, reaps conflict. Who cultivates wisdom, reaps enlightenment. Who acts with selfishness, finds solitude. Every life is an echo of past lives, and every lesson taken in the present shapes the path of the future. Mystery schools taught that before each incarnation, the soul chooses the circumstances it most needs for its evolution. It selects the family it will be born into, the challenges it will face, the lessons it must learn. There is no injustice in reincarnation, no chance in the fate of humans. Every situation, no matter how difficult or inexplicable it may seem, has been traced by the same being before descending into matter. But the veil of forgetfulness covers the soul's memory when it enters a new body. It forgets its past lives, forgets the pacts it made, forgets the lessons it set out to learn, and so, trapped in the illusion of the material world, man suffers, struggles against his destiny, rebels against the tests he himself chose, without understanding that each obstacle is an opportunity to transcend, that each pain is a lesson that, if understood, frees the soul from the wheel of rebirth. For this is the ultimate goal of reincarnation: ascension, liberation from the cycle of births and deaths, the reunification of the being with the totality of existence. As the soul evolves, it begins breaking the chains of karma. It learns to act from a higher consciousness. It begins remembering its true nature, and when it has reached the point where it no longer needs to learn through suffering, when it has integrated all the lessons, when it has balanced all its karmic debts, then it can choose not to return. It can merge into the light of existence without losing its identity. It can become a teacher, a guide for those still trapped in the cycle of ignorance. Eastern traditions have called this liberation moksha, or nirvana, the end of samsara. In Western mystery schools, it was spoken of as the ascension, the return to higher planes. In Hermetic teachings, it was understood as the fusion of the being with the all, but the message is the same across all cultures and epochs. Reincarnation is the soul's process of learning, and karma is the reflection of consciousness in matter. However, this truth has been hidden, distorted, and eliminated from many religious doctrines to keep humanity in the slavery of fear. The idea of an irrevocable final judgment, of eternal punishment, or arbitrary salvation has been imposed, destroying the notion that man is solely responsible for his destiny. The understanding that each human being is the architect of his own evolution, that he does not need intermediaries and does not depend on any external authority to determine his path, has been eliminated. But those who have awakened, those who have begun to remember, know that the truth cannot be suppressed forever. They know that the memory of the soul, although buried under layers of forgetfulness, can be restored through meditation, introspection, and the relentless pursuit of knowledge. They know that dreams, intuitions, and inexplicable affinities with certain places or people are fragments of other lives emerging to the surface, signs that the soul leaves as clues for itself on its journey. The path of reincarnation is not a punishment, but an opportunity. Each life is a new canvas, a new possibility to correct mistakes, acquire wisdom, and get closer to the truth. And those who understand this cease to fear death, for they know that death is not an end but a transition, another step in the infinite spiral of being. The real question is not whether reincarnation is real. The real question is, what are you doing in this life to shape your next existence? Are you creating harmony or sowing chaos? Are you learning from your mistakes or repeating the same cycles over and over? Are you awakening the reality of your soul, or are you still trapped in the illusion of matter? Karma is not an unrelenting judge, it is a perfect mirror. Reincarnation is not a condemnation, it is a door, and only those who are willing to look within, to take responsibility for their own destiny, to elevate their consciousness above the mechanical repetition of life and death, will be able to cross the threshold to true freedom. For the soul is not made to wander eternally between worlds. It is made to remember who it is, and when it does, when it awakens to the totality of its existence, it ceases to be a prisoner of time and becomes what it has always been, an immortal spark of consciousness. Chapter 12. The Awakening of Consciousness, Keys to Spiritual Evolution. The human being believes he is awake because his eyes perceive the light of the sun and his senses inform him about the reality surrounding him. He walks, breathes, works, dreams, and in his ignorance he believes his existence is full, that his consciousness is free, that his will is his own. But this is the greatest of illusions, the illusion in which most souls remain trapped life after life, without even suspecting that they dwell in a deep state of sleep, an invisible prison woven with the threads of unconsciousness. Awakening does not simply mean acquiring intellectual knowledge or adhering to doctrines that promise enlightenment with empty words. Awakening is remembering the true nature of being, breaking the veil of illusion and reconnecting with the divine essence that already lies deep within the soul. It is not an instantaneous process nor a gift granted by the grace of some higher entity. It is the result of a conscious effort, of an unbreakable will to transcend the limits imposed by the conditioned mind and the forces that seek to keep it immersed in ignorance. Since ancient times, the guardians of knowledge have taught that human consciousness passes through multiple states, from the deepest sleep to full spiritual realization. The wise men of the East spoke of Maya, the veil of illusion that covers the eyes of man, preventing him from seeing the truth. The Hermeticists explained that the vibration of consciousness determines the level of reality in which one finds oneself, and initiates from all traditions agreed that awakening is not a destination, but a path that requires discipline, transformation, and courage. The key to awakening begins with an inescapable truth. Everything the human being perceives is filtered through his level of consciousness. Reality is not something external that simply happens. It is a reflection of the inner vibration, a projection of the state of the soul. Thus, those who live trapped in fear, in insatiable desire, in purposeless ambition, in the blind search for fleeting pleasures, are doomed to experience a world in accordance with their frequency, a world of suffering and confusion. But those who have understood that their consciousness shapes reality have begun to walk the path to true freedom. The awakening of consciousness is therefore a process of purification, not in the moralistic sense that religions have imposed to subjugate souls, but in the vibrational and energetic sense. The human being cannot elevate spiritually while his mind is filled with dense thoughts, while his heart is loaded with destructive emotions, while his body is intoxicated with habits that bind it to the lower forces of existence. That is why all initiates have undergone a preparation process before accessing the mysteries, for one cannot receive the light if the vessel is still full of shadows. This process begins with the mastery of thought. The mind is the first threshold, the first barrier that the seeker must transcend. Most people believe they think for themselves, but in reality they are thought by the forces around them. They are slaves to mental patterns that do not belong to them, victims of ideas implanted by society, religions, and control systems that have shaped their perception since birth. Awakening means questioning everything, shedding imposed beliefs, observing thoughts carefully, and consciously deciding which seeds to allow to grow in the garden of the mind. But thought alone is not enough. Emotion is the next threshold. Fear, anger, sadness, attachment, these are vibrations that bind the human being to the lower levels of existence. It is not about repressing or denying them, but about understanding them, transforming them, transcending them so that the light of consciousness may expand without restrictions. The next step is will. Awakening is not a passive act. It does not happen by accident or by the simple desire to experience it. It requires effort, discipline, intention. The human being must learn to direct his energy, to fulfill his purpose, to act in harmony with the universal laws, instead of being carried away by the currents of destiny. Will is the inner fire, the divine spark that, when cultivated with wisdom, becomes the force that breaks the chains of unconsciousness and frees the soul from the cycles of repetition in which it has been trapped for eons. But the true key to awakening is not only knowledge, purification, or will, it is the direct experience of the higher reality. It is not enough to read about enlightenment, study spiritual theories, or memorize sacred texts. True awakening occurs when consciousness transcends ordinary perception and opens to dimensions that were previously invisible. It is the moment when the seeker ceases to be a student and becomes a seer, a direct knower of the mysteries. The schools of wisdom have transmitted precise techniques for this state. Deep meditation, concentration on sacred symbols, connection with the vibration of the universe through sound and geometry, alignment of internal energy through alchemical and hermetic practices. All of these methods have one sole purpose: to prepare the human being to receive the direct revelation of their true nature. But awakening is not an event that happens only once. It is not an instant of sudden enlightenment after which everything is perfect. It is a continuous process, a spiral ascent, where each new level of consciousness reveals more subtle challenges, more complex tests, and greater responsibilities. Because one who awakens does not only free themselves, they become a beacon for those who still sleep, a bridge between the visible and the invisible, a channel through which the light of the higher worlds can manifest in this plane. True awakening is not a selfish experience. It is not an escape from reality, nor a quest for spiritual pleasure. It is an act of service, a surrender to the soul's highest mission, to help raise the vibration of humanity, to plant seeds of awareness, to restore the knowledge that has been lost. For this reason, the masters have always warned that awakening involves great responsibility. Those who gain access to the light can no longer ignore it. They can no longer pretend they don't know. They can no longer turn back without betraying their own soul. The awakened consciousness must be cultivated, protected, and strengthened, because the forces that have kept man in ignorance will try to smother any spark of freedom, any attempt to transcend the dominion of unconsciousness. The awakening of consciousness is not a privilege reserved for a few. It is the natural destiny of every human being, but only those who choose to walk the path with determination, those who are willing to see beyond illusions, those who have the courage to face the truth without fear, will be able to cross the threshold. Because the real question is not whether awakening is possible. The real question is, are you prepared to abandon the comfort of sleep and claim the power of your own consciousness? Chapter 13, The Path of the Initiates, the final test. The awakening of consciousness is not the end of the path, but the beginning of the true test. Humanity has been programmed to believe that enlightenment is a destination, a state of perpetual peace, where the seeker, upon reaching a certain level of understanding, is rewarded with absolute fulfillment and happiness. But this is a falsehood, an illusion woven by those who have not understood the nature of the initiatory path. For the truth is that awakening brings with it the hardest test, the final barrier that separates the aspirant from true knowledge. The mystery schools have taught since time immemorial that one who ventures into the path of wisdom must undergo trials that will test not only their knowledge, but their very essence. These trials are not physical nor arbitrary, but manifestations of the internal limits that the initiate must transcend in order to achieve mastery, because the universe does not grant power without responsibility, nor does it grant access to the light without first ensuring that the one who receives it is worthy of carrying it. Ancient traditions spoke of symbolic tests that every initiate must face: the trial of fire, where the ego is consumed and the illusory identity disintegrates; the trial of water, where the deepest emotions emerge to be understood and purified; the trial of air, where the mind must free itself from the fears and doubts that bind it to ignorance; and the trial of earth, where the will of the initiate is tested in the material world, ensuring that their awakening is not merely an internal experience, but a real transformation in their existence. But these trials do not occur in hidden temples or secret rituals, as the profane minds might imagine. They happen in everyday life, in the challenges that destiny presents to each individual, in the decisions that test their character, in the moments when they must choose between truth and comfort, between knowledge and ignorance, between evolution and stagnation. For the true test of the initiate is this: what will they do with the truth they have discovered? Many seek wisdom, but few are willing to assume the responsibility that it entails. For the one who awakens, the one who crosses the threshold of hidden knowledge, can no longer take refuge in ignorance. They can no longer blame external forces for their fate. They can no longer pretend that their life is an accident without purpose. The final test of the initiate is to face oneself, to recognize that everything they have experienced, everything they have suffered, everything they have sought, has been the reflection of their own vibration, their own will, their own essence. And this is where many fail, because awakening involves destroying everything that was believed to be true, abandoning the masks built by the ego, letting go of the chains of the past, and walking toward the unknown without guarantees, without certainties, without the false security that ignorance offers. It is the moment when the seeker understands that there are no saviors, that there are no external teachers who can give them what only they can claim for themselves. The stories of the ancient initiates recount how those who reached the last door had to face the total dissolution of their identity before being reborn as something new. The myths of death and resurrection present in all esoteric traditions are not mere metaphors, but encrypted accounts of what happens in the soul of the true seeker when they reach the threshold of transformation. The great masters of humanity, from the sages of Egypt to the yogis of the Himalayas, have described this moment as the instant when the initiate must abandon all attachment to what they believe themselves to be. They must face the inner darkness without fear, surrendering completely to the truth, without reservations, excuses, or resistance. For some, this test manifests as absolute loneliness, the departure from everything that was familiar, the sensation of being in the void, of losing all connection with the world. For others, it appears as a confrontation with their greatest fears, with the shadows they have avoided looking at throughout their existence. And for the most advanced, it is the experience of the total dissolution of the self, the moment when the mind ceases to resist and allows consciousness to expand beyond time, space, and all limitations imposed by human perception. But few are those who cross this threshold, because to do so it is necessary to completely let go of the fear of death, not only in its physical sense, but the death of the ego, of the illusory identity, of everything that has been built as a prison for the true being. It is here where many turn back, where the mind desperately clings to its old structures, where fear disguises itself as prudence, where the ego whispers that it is unnecessary to go forward. Esoteric texts speak of those who, upon reaching this point, become guardians of the gate, souls who cannot cross, but who also cannot return, trapped in an intermediate state where the knowledge they have acquired becomes their own burden. These are the false teachers, those who have seen the truth but have not managed to embody it, those who preach enlightenment but live in the darkness of their own fear. But those who manage to cross, those who overcome the final test, those who give up everything they are to receive what they have always been, awaken to a reality that cannot be described with words. Because on the other side of the threshold there are no certainties, no dogmas, no limitations. There is only pure truth. A limited consciousness recognizes itself in everything that exists, and it is. It is then when the initiate becomes the master, not because they have attained a higher status, but because they have understood that there was never any separation. Awakening is not an achievement. It is the recognition of what has always been. It is here where duality disappears, where the seeker and the sought merge into a single existence, where knowledge ceases to be a concept and becomes living experience. But the path does not end here, because the one who is awakened cannot simply retreat into silence. Their mission is not to flee from the world, but to return to it with the light they have found. The true masters are not those who isolate themselves in distant temples, but those who walk among men, who plant seeds of truth in every action, who carry the vibration of awakening wherever they go. The path of the initiates is not a privilege. It is not a divine gift. It is not a destiny reserved for a few chosen ones. It is a call that resonates deep within the soul, waiting to be heard. But few have the courage to respond, for the path demands everything. It demands the absolute surrender of what is believed to be. It demands the destruction of all certainties. It demands the unbreakable will to move forward, no matter how dark the night, how painful the detachment, how terrifying the void before the revelation. And the final question that every seeker must ask themselves is, am I willing to cross the threshold? Because in the end there is no judgment, no condemnation, no punishment. There is only choice. Awaken or remain asleep, evolve or repeat the same cycles over and over, cross the final door or stay at the threshold. The path is open, the test has begun, and only those who are truly ready will know the truth that has been waiting for them since the beginning of time. Chapter 14. Towards the immortality of the spirit, the unification with the whole. Humanity, trapped in the illusion of matter, has been conditioned to fear death. Since time immemorial, humans have sought ways to prolong their existence, to resist the inevitable decline of the physical body, to cling to the ephemeral identity they have built in this life. But this fear is the greatest deception, the deepest of illusions, because death is not the end, but the portal to a broader understanding, to the immortality of the spirit, to the reunification with the totality of existence. The ancient sages taught that the spirit neither is born nor dies. It is eternal, immutable, a spark of infinite consciousness that descends into the material plane to experience, learn, and evolve. What man calls life is only a temporary manifestation within the broader cycle of being, an episode in the soul's journey through the eons. And what is called death is nothing more than a change of state, a transition to another form of existence, an expansion of consciousness beyond the limits imposed by the body and sensory perception. Esoteric traditions from all cultures have spoken of immortality, but not as the simple prolongation of physical life, but as the awakening of the being to its true nature. It is not about avoiding death, but about transcending it. It is not about preserving earthly identity, but about dissolving the ego and merging with the totality of the universe. Those who have attained spiritual mastery do not fear the end of the body, because they have understood that their essence is not bound to form, that they are as vast as the cosmos, that they are the same consciousness that sustains creation. The mystery schools taught that immortality is not a privilege granted to a few, but an inherent right of every human being who awakens to their divine reality. However, this awakening does not happen by accident or by desire, but through the conscious integration of truth. The path to the immortality of the spirit requires the total abandonment of the illusion of separation, the transcendence of attachment to individuality, and the dissolution of the barriers that limit the perception of cosmic unity. The first step toward this transcendence is the recognition that time is not linear. On the physical plane, the human mind perceives existence as a succession of moments moving from the past to the future. But at the higher levels of consciousness, everything occurs simultaneously. Existence is not a progression, but an infinite field of possibilities in which each soul chooses its path of manifestation. Immortality does not mean continuing in time, but stepping out of it, understanding that the spirit is not subject to the illusion of before and after, but is simply eternal and immutable. The second step is the integration of consciousness across all planes of existence. As long as man identifies solely with his physical body, he will remain chained to the illusion of mortality. As long as he clings to his mind, his thoughts, his personal identity, he will continue to believe in the finitude of his being. But when he expands his perception and recognizes that his consciousness exists beyond flesh, beyond mind, beyond even individuality, he begins to experience his true immortality. The ancients spoke of this state as the union with the whole, the moment when the human being ceases to perceive themselves as a separate individual and merges with the totality of existence. In the Vedas, It is described as the realization of Atman in Brahman, the spark recognized as part of the infinite fire. In Hermeticism, it is spoken of as the dissolution of the soul into the cosmic mind. In Christian mysticism, it is called the union with God. All these traditions, though expressed in different words, describe the same truth. Immortality is not an extension of individual life, but the fusion with universal consciousness. But this process is not something that occurs after death. It is not a destination to which one automatically arrives. It is a state that must be attained in life, a level of consciousness that must be awakened in the here and now. Those who have transcended the illusion of separation do not wait for death to experience eternity. They live it in every moment, every breath, every thought. For them, time has ceased to exist. Identity is only an instrument. Reality is a reflection of their own vibration. The immortality of the spirit is not an abstract concept nor a future promise. It is a reality accessible to those who have learned to see beyond the veil, who have understood that death is merely a transition and that life is a momentary manifestation within an infinite dance of energy and consciousness. But the final question is man prepared to accept this truth? Because accepting the immortality of the spirit means abandoning all illusion of control, ceasing to cling to the false securities of the ego, renouncing the need to define being in terms of material existence. It means understanding that there is no birth, no death, no beginning, no end. There is only expanding consciousness, exploring infinite possibilities of manifestation. The ancient masters have left the keys for those who are ready. They have taught that death is not the enemy, but the threshold, that the body is a temporary vehicle, not the true identity, that the spirit does not need salvation because it has never been lost, that the only barrier between man and his immortality is the fear he has created. The guardians of knowledge have always known that not everyone is ready to receive this truth, that many will continue seeking immortality in matter, trying to prolong their lives through technology, genetics, and resistance to the inevitable, continuing to see death as the end, life as a struggle, and existence as a mystery without answer. But those who have awakened know that there is nothing to fear. They know that the spirit is indestructible, that consciousness is infinite, that death is merely a change in vibration, and in knowing this, they free themselves from the greatest of all chains, the fear of oblivion, the fear of disappearing, the fear of nothingness. Because in the ultimate reality, at the deepest level of existence, there was never a you separate from the whole. There was never a soul isolated, seeking its destiny. There was never a beginning or an end. There is only infinite consciousness experiencing itself. There is only the one, the all, the void and the fullness in perfect unity. And he who understands this, who ceases to resist, who crosses the threshold without fear, will discover the truth that has been waiting for them since the beginning of time. There was never death, there was never separation. You were always immortal.